Hi y'all, I'm Brenda with Blessings and Bread. Welcome to my backyard garden. Today I thought I'd give you a good wide view of my garden. It's looking just great. I'm enjoying so much when I get to sit on my back porch when it cools off enough here in the Texas heat. And I really am enjoying sitting on my back porch and just enjoying watching my garden grow. But today I'm going to be harvesting a couple of things. One, my last head of cabbage, and then I'm going to be harvesting my lavender, and I thought I would show you how I harvest my lavender and then what I do with it when I'm through harvesting it. So come along with me while I work in my garden. This is my last cabbage, and I've left it here till it's made a really good solid head, so it's coming up. And then I will just get rid of all of these other leaves, and they'll go into my not compost heap that I have. I did not bring a knife with me today, so I'm going to be stuck with the roots. But a good head of cabbage. So I might have to cook some pinto beans to go with that. So the last cabbage is up, and now we're going to go over and harvest some lavender. I just have about 3 lavender plants here. It's not a large plot, but it has really done well for me in this plot. This was a corner where I had what I call my non-compost compost pile, because I don't really do compost like you're supposed to, but I throw all my garden debris here, and then for several years, and then I just kind of mulch it and turn it into this flower bed for my or this herb bed for my lavender. And it's done amazing here. And so today's the day for the harvest. So I'm going to take you in closer and try to show you what my lavender looks like. I've just been watching it closely every day now for several days to make sure it was ready. But you have to get that perfect day when it's not blooming, but it's still ready to harvest. So we're going to harvest it basically before it completely blooms. I'm going to try to show you a individual little lavender bloom or stalk. And as you can see, it's got lots of little buds here. And on the very bottom, a couple of them have already started to bloom. Ideally, I would like to catch it before any of them bloom. And I've been watching them closely. In fact, last night before I went to bed, there were hardly any of them that had blooms. And this morning, several of them have blooms. So it's definitely time to get this harvested. To harvest my lavender, I'm just going to use a pair of garden shears, and I'm going to go in here and just cut them all off at the base of each of these stalks. So that's what I do. And so I'm just going to go in here and cut. And I just grab handfuls and cut. And then I get little bunches of lavender. And then we'll take them in the house later, and I'll show you what we're going to do. When I first harvested my lavender, I would come out here on a daily basis and just harvest the ones that I thought were perfectly ready. And then I've learned to just come and do it all at one time. So this is my lavender harvest today off of just three plants. They're pretty mature plants. They've been in the ground probably 6 or 8 years. I really don't remember. I will tell you this, that lavender, the harvest isn't to begin until the 3rd year, and I found that to definitely be true. The first 3 years there wasn't a big harvest, but I'm excited always to get my lavender harvest. And then I'm going to go in and I will show you what I do with my lavender. Now that I have harvested my lavender, I need to prepare it so that it can dry. And in order to dry, you must hang your lavender upside down. So what I do is I just gather up several, a pretty good bunch of it. I don't know that there's any rocket science to this. Professional lavender farmers may have a technique, but I've just done this and it's worked for me. But I'm going to then gather those up, and then I'm going to use just kitchen twine. And I'm going to take some kitchen twine and wrap it around the bottom. Oh, just a little bit, but I'm going to wrap it around a couple of times and then tie this twine to hold it together. But I want to be sure, so I'm tying it off here. Let me show you what I do. So I tie it off there with a knot. But then I want to make a loop. So I'm going to make a loop here. And I'm going to tie that so that I can use that to hang my lavender. And again, I'm just tying that off with a knot. And then I trim that off. And I have a bunch of lavender grown together. Now I can hang it using this. And what I have found that works really well to hang it that I have is I use these paper clips that have opened up. And so then I can just use that to hang my lavender. And I will show you in a minute. Sometimes I hang it on clothes hangers and then hang the clothes hanger up. So I'll show that in a minute. But right now, I'm going to bundle my lavender. One other thing I will show you at the end is I always love to press some of the lavender. So at the end, I will also show you how I press my lavender. This lavender smells so good. It's making my house smell wonderful. Now, this particular lavender, I really just bought it at the nursery. I'm not sure what variety it is. I have grown it, like I said, for several years, and it's turned out to give me a nice little harvest of lavender, all I need, for sure. I'm not doing a lot with it besides using it for, mostly I use my lavender for decorative purposes and a little bit maybe for the fragrance, but mostly I'm just drying it and using it decoratively in flower arrangements or pressing it. I love to press it up. Again, I'm just going to wrap that around there a couple of times so it'll hold it good and tight. I'm going to tie a knot to keep that tight. And then I'm going to tie a second knot to create a loop. And I forgot on the last one. Then another thing I always do is then I take my garden shears and I cut across the bottom just to make this neater on the end. Oh, I forgot to trim my twine so that now it's all nice and neat on that end, and then I can just hang this to dry. So I'm going to keep going. I always kind of like to sort through and find one thing I do remove try to remove most of the leaves, if there are any leaves still on the thing. But what I like to do also is I like to kind of select and pick some that are really kind of in perfect bloom the perfect bloom stage for pressing. So I kind of like to look through there and find some that haven't bloomed completely yet, but that are ready, just ready to be to bloom, just right before they bloom out. And then I'm going to save those, set those aside for pressing. And I've got all of them tied up, and this was my harvest. And a pretty good crop this year. It's about the same I've gotten each year. To press my lavender, I need a really big book, and I used to have a bigger book that was about this size but about 4 inches thick, but I gave that book away. So today I'm going to make use of my college yearbook. For the first time ever, it's going to be useful. And I decided, let's see if I can find my picture. Let's see if I can zoom in on my picture. This is me right here. And I kind of realized I have the same haircut today that I had in 1979 when I graduated from college. But today I'm going to put this yearbook to work, helping me to press my flowers. This is really an easy process to do. I'm going to take a piece of parchment paper and I'm going to open the book. I'm going to do it in 2 different places, but so kind of somewhere near the front of this book, I'm going to lay a piece of parchment paper in the book. And then I'm going to just lay a few, actually I'm going to trim them. But I'm going to lay a few pieces of lavender on this page. Maybe one more. All right, and then I'm going to fold this other parchment paper over on top of it. And then I'm going to carefully close my book. All right, and now I'm going to do that again here. So I'm just going to do it twice in this book. So, and I don't do a whole lot of these, but I could do more. But like I said, I just mainly use these to make cards. But you could definitely make some very pretty pressed flowered like pictures. There's a lot you could do with them. I just have not done a whole lot with them. All right. So now I'm going to close that. And I'm just making sure none of the lavender blooms are touching each other. And then I close that. Now the next thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to weight that down. So I'm going to pile some more books on top. And then I actually have these 2 bricks that I'm going to place even on top of those. So let me adjust my camera so you can see that. And now I'm going to leave that, and I'll just set it aside, and I will leave that for about 2 weeks. And then in about 2 weeks, I will go back and look at them and see if they're ready. And sometimes they need longer, but in 2 weeks, I'll be checking them to see if they're pressed. These are some of the lavender blooms that I pressed last year and that were left over that I didn't use. And so that gives you an idea of what they're going to look like once the lavender, it really holds the color really well. Because this is, I pressed this a year ago, and when you get them up close, you can tell they really still have held on to their color. You can press other flowers this way as well, not just lavender, but you can also use a flower press, but as you can see, I don't have a flower press, so I'm making do with these big books, and it works, so. This is the rack where I've been hanging my lavender for the last several years. Some of these I will move after they begin to dry a little better. I won't leave them all there for the whole year. But this is basically this little, already have this little rack on the wall, and I'm just hanging my lavender upside down on there until it gets good and dried out. So this is how I harvest and prepare my lavender to dry. Thank you for coming along while I worked in my garden today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd love for you to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're new to my channel. And please share my videos, if you would, on your social media platforms. That would really help my channel. I thank you for being here. Hope you enjoyed seeing how I harvest my mini lavender farm in my backyard, and how I prep it and dry it for to keep for decorative purposes. So I hope that I will see you the next time I'm in my garden, on my porch, or in my kitchen.